The Seven Kingdoms is the name given to the former realm that controlled most of the continent of Westeros and its numerous offshore islands, ruled by the king of the Andals and the Rhoynar, and the first men from the Red Keep in the city of King's Landing. The name of the realm dates back prior to Aegon's conquest, when 7 independent kingdoms existed on the continent. The realm actually consisted of 9 distinct regions, the remaining 2 being formally established after the Targaryen conquest, and thus they were not actually considered to be kingdoms. Regardless, all 9 provinces were subject to the rule of the Iron Throne. The realm was fractured several times from years of civil warfare, with the most recent resulting in the North and the Iron Islands attempting secession. However, the North under Jon Snow pledged to Daenerys Targaryen, while the Iron Islands under Euron Greyjoy allied with House Lannister. Both sides agreed to an armistice to deal with the Great War in the North, though Cersei Lannister and Euron Greyjoy held their forces back. After the Great War was won, the last war resumed, and Daenerys and her forces took King's Landing at the Battle of King's Landing, though much of the population and structures were destroyed when she laid waste to the city. Daenerys was subsequently assassinated by Jon Snow to prevent more destruction. A great council elected a new king, Bran I the Broken, who then allowed the North to secede under Queen Sansa Stark, resulting in the realm's reformation into the 6 kingdoms. When Aegon I Targaryen embarked on his conquest of the continent of Westeros from his seat on Dragonstone, he had to contend with 7 independent realms formed by the first men thousands of years ago and later taken over by the Andals during their invasion thousands of years later, with the exception of the North and the Iron Islands. Dorne also later adopted the practices of the Rhoynar when they migrated to Westeros. These were the Kingdom of the North, ruled by House Stark of Winterfell, the kings in the north. The Kingdom of the Mountain and the Vale, ruled by House Arryn of the Eyrie, the kings of the Mountain and the Vale. The Iron Islands, ruled by House Hoare of Harrenhal, the kings of the Iron Islands. The Kingdom of the Rock, ruled by House Lannister of Casterly Rock, the kings of the Rock. The Stormlands, ruled by House Durrandon of Storm's End, the Storm Kings. The Kingdom of the Reach, ruled by House Gardener of Highgarden, the kings of the Reach. Dorne, ruled by House Martell of Sunspear, the princes of Dorne. With the aid of his dragons, Aegon managed to conquer all of the kingdoms except Dorne, which would join with his dynasty through marriage a century later. Houses Stark, Lannister, and Arryn, which bent the knee to Aegon, were allowed to maintain their domains, no longer as kings, but as lords paramount of their respective regions, the North, the Westerlands, and the Vale and Wardens, subject to the authority of the king of the Andals and the Rhoynar and the First Men. With House Hoare eliminated, the kingdom ruled by Harren the Black was divided, with the people of the Iron Islands choosing House Greyjoy as their rulers. Land surrounding the Trident awarded to House Tully as lords of the Riverlands, and the lords of lands surrounding the new capital of King's Landing as direct vassals to the Iron Throne. House Gardener was also obliterated when King Mern IX perished at the Field of Fire. Mern's steward, Harlan Tyrell, surrendered Highgarden and the Reach to the Targaryen conqueror, and was thus appointed Lord of Highgarden, Lord Paramount of the Reach, and Warden of the South. House Durrandon was extinguished in the male line when King Argilac was killed by Orys Baratheon in battle. As a reward for his loyalty, Orys was granted Argilac's domain, as well as his daughter. Thus House Baratheon, the lords paramount of the Stormlands and new lords of Storm's End, was created. The only one of the 7 kingdoms not conquered was Dorne in the far south, whose lords learned from the mistakes of the other kings and refused to meet Aegon and his dragons in open battle. Dorne retained their independence for almost 2 more centuries before joining the realm through a dual marriage with the Targaryens. Because they entered the realm through a marital alliance and not conquest, The Dornish rulers of House Martell have been allowed to continue to style themselves as princes and princesses rather than lords paramount, though they are still subject to the authority of the Iron Throne and are not considered to be royalty. Despite numerous civil wars, rebellions, and the death of the last of the dragons, the Targaryens ruled over the unified Seven Kingdoms for over 280 years, some of which saw peace and prosperity, until the actions of the Mad King Aerys II triggered the rebellion known as Robert's Rebellion. At the end of this civil war, King Aerys II and most of his family were slain, and his surviving children fled into exile in the free cities across the narrow sea on the continent of Essos. Robert Baratheon took the throne and ruled for 17 years, beginning a new dynasty whose rule became challenged after his death. Cersei Lannister, the widow and murderer of Robert, took the throne after the Civil War, beginning the Lannister dynasty. However, her rule is quickly contested by the last known Targaryen, Daenerys Targaryen, who brings with her the 3 dragons like Aegon had, the first dragons born in over a century. Jon Snow, the new king in the north, sought to unite the fractured kingdoms against a common enemy, the White Walkers, who have been gone for 8,000 years since the first Long Night. He struggles to do so as most of the realm believes the White Walkers to be fairy tales, and as a result, went on an expedition beyond the Wall with allies to gather proof of their reawakening. House Targaryen and House Stark united in the Great War, which House Lannister sat out of despite promising to contribute, and defeated the White Walkers in the Battle of Winterfell. Afterwards, they defeated House Lannister at the Battle of King's Landing, though King's Landing was left in ruins. After the assassination of Daenerys Targaryen by Jon Snow, the Unsullied leave the lords of the great houses to elect a new ruler. In a great council in the Dragon Pit, the remaining houses unanimously vote for Bran Stark to be the new king, and they agree that future monarchs would be elected the same manner. However, House Stark declares the independence of the Kingdom of the North, which is uncontested and accepted by Bran. As the new hand of the king, Tyrion Lannister leads the small council in the reconstruction of King's Landing.